What's up, guys? I'm back from Europe, and today I've got a little bit more energy, got some sleep. My deck list is posted over on Twitter, and it will be in this video as well from the list that I played. Myself, Justin Bakari, Isaiah Bradner, and Michael Slutsky all played this 60-card list. Michael Slutsky earning championship points, getting top 128. I finished top 64, making day 2, and then Isaiah and Justin both made top 8 of the European International Championships. An insane conversion rate, an insane group. I'm very happy to have tested with everyone this weekend, and I'm glad that we had the success that we did. So I'm going to be breaking down my deck list here in a little bit, and I'm going to talk about my tournament report. And if you guys enjoy that kind of content, obviously like, subscribe, and thank you to every single person this weekend that I don't know, like responded to me on Twitter, like sent me messages on Facebook, all that good stuff. Like I really, really appreciate every single one of you. It always means the world to me when I get to finish day 1, finish day 2, and kind of look through my messages and. I have a lot of like really wholesome messages in there because I do beat myself up over a tournament a lot. So yeah, so here is the list that we ended up playing. I'll explain a lot of cards, and I will also have Isaiah and Justin on the channel this week to talk about some of the other stuff too, because I obviously didn't do a lot of the groundwork here, and Isaiah usually mostly put like a lot of the work in, and we believed in Isaiah for a lot of the deck. And yeah. So we played a 4-4-1-1 in Zelly Online. A very standard line has been 4-3-1-1 in this format, something that we did over in Salt Lake City and has been kind of copied since about then. But we kind of figured, like as we were playing games the very last hour, that our drizzles were getting hunted, and having one prized at that moment made the game really difficult. So it was one of the considerations that was on the table for quite a while. So having that fourth drizzle really did pay off at the very end, and I'm very happy to have had that card in the deck. We played a 2-2 Urshifu because it was the main attacker in the RCS matchups, and we could always set up flow in other matchups as well with the Yoga Loop. But Urshifu was like in RCS matchups we play an RCS or we play an Urshifu Inteleon deck. In Mew matchups we play like a Moltres Hoopa Inteleon deck, and then in the Malamar matchup we'd have like a toolbox of cards. And then obviously we didn't really prep for the Whimsicott matchup, but after day 1 we had an idea of how to play it as well, and I think we could have won against Frank, against Finn, like all those guys who played it. We played 2 copies of Celebrations Mew. Now this card was very cool because it has Mysterious Tail. Look at your top 6 cards, get an item you find there, put it into your hand. Yes, it's not a trainer. If it was a trainer, it'd just be better Stellar with Shirachi. But an item there was still really, really strong because our turn 2s are usually the sketchiest turn, and being able to go turn 2 into a Cynthia's Ambition, or in the late game having a little bit of an extra dig against Marnie, because our board will usually have a Sobble, will usually have a Drizzle, and finding that Incense or Lava Ball or whatever piece we need is kind of the next big step. So rather than having to hope that we get Marnied into that piece, we can always Mew and get that piece just like organically, which was a really good addition from Isaiah. And Mew basically made its way into the deck as we were flying out to Frankfurt. So Isaiah put a lot of time into testing it while he was on the flight, and while he landed, he kind of showed us in a couple games, and I was sold like 2 or 3 games in. To the card, and yeah, we had the Eldegoss in for a little bit before that, and we had a bunch of stuff. We had a bunch of stuff coming in, going out. Like, very good card. We had 2 copies of Galarian Moltres. Originally, it was just 1 for the longest time because we felt like we could just Fiery Wrath, obviously, get the job done. But the second one made its way into the deck when prizing one became like a pretty big problem, and we had a Moltres V in that slot for a really long time. But the Moltres V just didn't do what we wanted it to do a lot of the time. Like, it's really good against Mew. But you have to kind of like get it in the perfect scenario with like the perfect hand. And if you do and get the Raihan play off and get the one shot on the VMAX, then you're super far ahead. But it just felt like we could win anyway against Mew if we just played a slow controlled game. So it didn't make the cut. But obviously Gustavo, you saw with Gustavo's list how like the Mew panned out and how he won the games. So obviously props to Gustavo for that approach as well. We had the Hoopa and the Pissimian, both to kind of get damage onto the board to set up the rapid flows, or the Yoga Loop, sorry, with the Assault Gate doing 90 plus 30 with the Choice Belt onto a Hoopa, as well as Pissimian doing the Fling for 50. We were able to set up our Genesects very easily. And if they were like, benching the Oricorio after you've already flung, or after you've already Assault Gated, you can just get the boss play off on an Oricorio. To put it at 70 and get a Yoga Loop off of that way, and then all of a sudden a flow target gets set up because you've already got the damage on the board onto a Genesect. So it made a lot of sense that way. The Pissimian was mostly there for fling, and yes, I guess the flow damage was helpful, but it was almost always there exclusively for fling to help set up damage onto the board, give you a better turn 2 attacker after you've kept calling and set up your board, and kind of still put some pressure on without having to invest too many resources. It was also another keep calling target, which we wanted to keep having those in the deck because if one Sobble was prized, our turn one keep calling was always like a little bit weak. We also had a free retreater rapid strike Pokemon in there for a long time, which didn't make the cut at the very last hour. R.I.P. George. So yeah, those were kind of the reasonings there. And then Yoga Loop from the Metacham was there to kind of obviously set up the plays, kind of make those like steal the game plays with the like 5 prize or 4 prize turns that we were setting up for in a lot of matchups, especially Malamar. Like Yoga Loop just kind of gave you such an edge in Malamar that it felt incredibly favored in every facet. We had 1 Research, 1 Ambition, 1 Birdkeeper, 1 Raihan, 1 Clara, 1 Boss, 1 Cheryl, 1 Peonia. I think every supporter in here speaks for itself. We didn't have Sonia at any point in the deck. We had a second Birdkeeper for a while. We had a second Research for a while. And we were considering a second boss towards the end. But the supporter count was very good. I think I used every supporter multiple times throughout the tournament. And every supporter pulled their weight, respectively. We had 4 Evolution Instants, 4 Quick Ball, 3 Level. We were considering which ball card to cut to make room for the 4th Drizzle, and it ended up being a Level Ball because it effectively serves the same purpose. Except Level Ball does get you your Sobbles early and the Muse early, but Level Ball was one of the few cards that we discovered towards the end of the game would always be dead in our hands. We had 3 copies of Scoop Up Net. A 4th was something that was always on the table, I think, but the 3 copies of Scoop Up Net always acts as a ton of extra cards. But we had a Balloon to kind of supplement that 4th net because we were playing Mew, having a place to put the Balloon. We had the Escape Rope as well to kind of get more value out of Hoopa, get more value in that late game where you can slam the Moltres and Rope when Mew leaps into a 1 prizer at the very end, so you can get those last 2 prizes without having to sweat too much. 2 copies of Energy Search, which was really, really clutch, obviously, to kind of get the Moltres up and running. 1 copy of Palpad, also very good. 2 copies of Trading Court, because Trading Court was just another way for, if it stuck ever, we were able to get our combo off going, and it just kind of helped aid the combo process and reuse that 1 fighting that we had in the deck over and over again. I wanted an Energy Retrieval for a little bit with the Moltres package, so we could get that, get the Moltres and get get a Quick Ball, get an Energy Retrieval, and then get the boss, and then make a play that turn that way. Something that didn't make its way into the list, but 5, 3, 1 for the energy count. Overall, I think the list was pretty perfect. I think it was the best version for the event. It's just really unfortunate that one of us was not able to take it home. So let's go through my tournament report as we go. So round 1, I go up against Andre, and I started the day off with a very jarring loss. I went loss against Malamar, where in game 1, I had a really slow start. Nothing really went my way. And by turn 3 or 4, Andre had established a perfect board, and I think I'd taken 1 prize maybe at this point, which made it really hard to come back. I went through the motions and tried to get the whole flow play off at the very end, but I was exactly 1 turn too far behind to get everything going, and I lost by 1 prize at the very end. Basically gutting Andre's board and saying I can't knock out your active. Can you please can you do something? Can you knock out my Urshi with I think he had a 7 card hand, and if you can't, I win the game. And he was able to successfully. So the second game, I pretty much got the whole playoff very quickly, and Andre realized, and the game ended. And then the third game, this is the first bout where prizing actually hurt me a lot, where I prized both my baby Urshifu, and I Peonia'd on turn 1 or 2 actually, and I did not hit the Urshifu, which is fine, because now I know that there's an Urshifu in the remaining 3. So I went aggressively to take a Hoopa prize, and I did not pull the Urshifu. So by the time I was able to get the Urshifu out, Andre had already set up an excellent board that I had trouble dealing with. And so I managed to get 1 flow play off, just flow the board or whatever. And I took another prize with Moltres, and I went down to 4. And I had set up everything perfectly, but then Andre played the end game really well to not give me a Yoga Loop target, because I'd set it up so that if Andre had done anything towards the very end, I would have been able to Yoga Loop, kill all the Inkays on board unless a 4th Inkay hit the board. Only a 4th Inkay would have been a problem, honestly. Everything else was completely fine. And I was going to be able to take 3 things off the board, but Andre played it very well at the end, looping or super scoop netting up his whole board, basically leaving me with no targets to loop, and I conceded. The second round was Juan, who was also playing Malamar, and this one was a lot more cut and dry. Both games 1 and 2, I got the whole playoff, while Juan was still 5 prizes, maybe 4 prizes, leaving him with leaving me with 1 both times, and no way to take that last prize because I just sat there with the Urshi in the active. But Juan also just struggled to set up after I gutted the board. So as soon as he took that 3 prizer on the Urshifu, I just slammed down the Moltres that was sitting in my hand, and I ended the game every time. So I basically locked up the game both times, and I think there was definitely some missequencing still there, but I was able to get it done. And then round three went against Andy, who was playing, I believe, Mew VMAX. So I think it was my first run into Mew, and I don't remember exactly what happened in this set, but actually let me double check that it was Mew. But I think in this set what ended up happening was that I just kind of like the matchup went exactly as we had planned it in testing, and I wasn't. No, this round was RCS Dark. Sorry, I'm trolling. So I played against RCS Dark this round, and this matchup is like, and they didn't play Dunsparce in this round, so Andy didn't play Dunsparce, and I think at the end of game one he verbally told me that he didn't play Dunsparce after I just went like boom boom like on his first two Arceus, and like I went boom Cheryl Balloon boom back into it, and he didn't play Balloon either, and he was only playing Beeburls, so I wasn't really afraid. And then game two I just flowed both Bidoofs on turn three, I think, or like Bidoof Beeburl turn three, and he effectively conceded from there, and then he told me he didn't play any Dunsparce, so that was pretty much a win. Round four was against a Mew that was playing Cross Switcher, and the game was really sketchy for a while because I didn't expect the Cross Switcher. So I played a little bit around just like, oh, he's not going to have Alessa's this. He has to Alessa's this turn to play a play. But then Cross Switcher came into play, and I was like, oh no. I did end up going win-win, but it came down to like the wire, I think, in game two, because I ended up prizing two Sobble, and that almost came back to hurt, but I was able to, like, I think Santiago left like one or two things like active too long. I think he left a Mew active on a turn where he thought I couldn't one-shot it, and I was able to one-shot it. And then I was also able to just like get that rope playoff at the very end to kind of clean out the game. And then I would have been Steve, who played Mew as well. And then that matchup felt a little closer because I think Steve played catchers. And he basically gutted like my entire back end of the board. Like he took out all my drizzles like very quickly, leaving me with like never a route to get to Inteleon. And because of that, I had like a little bit of a struggle, but I didn't have too much trouble closing out the game because my Moltres never got touched. So I was able to just kind of like use the cards in my hand from building the hand to kind of just win the game. And Steve, I think, burned a couple tablets too early, and he was going for a leap play at the very end, which I think was good on his part, but he missed it in game two. So then I'm at 4-1, and I go up against Piper, who is playing. She's playing Arceus Malamar VMAX, and so I don't know like what this matchup is. It's not something I've prepared for. All I know is that Piper probably does not play Dunsparce, so I go in with a very aggressive approach into both games, and both times. I'm met with like a Marnie or a Judge into the Max Jammer to rip a card. But I set up my board in a way where every time if I have more than one out in my hand, I can play the game. And I did that every single time. Like I had more than one out, I had more than one card, and I was able to go like research or like play another aggressive card, maybe even give up the Urshifu to set up another one or play like that, you know. And I was able to just kind of squeak out the game both times. Malamar VMAX is very scary. But yeah, that was a very tough set against Piper that I was able to sneak out. Against Finn Lynch, round 7, you guys saw me on stream. I think there was lines to win both games. I'll do an analysis on my stream game after, because Isaiah, myself, and Justin sat down and kind of like went through the stream game after that night, and we figured out there is a way to beat Whimsicott. I just didn't see it in the moment. I straight up didn't see it. Like I straight up just didn't see what I had to do in game 2, or game 1, sorry, and then in game 2, I just missed it. I missed a very easy win con to take us to a tie. So that sucked. But I lost to Finn, putting me at 5-2, then putting me on a win-in against Eli. And then Eli was playing the mirror match with a lot more cards to rapid flow more consistently. But Eli in the third game made like a really weird play by attacking into my active rather than flowing my Drizzle and Sobble. And I mean, I had the game in hand, but Eli could have made me work for it by taking out both my ways to search cards. But I think because I knew he didn't play any hand disruption, I had already grabbed it preemptively. And he knew that I didn't play hand disruption, so he was grabbing pieces preemptively as well. And that put me on an ID and in. So against Alberto, I went ahead and ID'd and put myself into day 2, which felt awesome. And so in day 2, I go up against Dominic, who was playing Arceus Lycanroc, and there was no like Dunsparce or anything, so I just kind of ran over Dominic. Like it was just a like Urshifu go in, Urshifu go in, Urshifu go in. use Cheryl, Urshifu go in. Like, it was just not like a game. Like, it just didn't feel like a game. Dominic always chased after my Sobbles and the Drizzles to kind of make it so I didn't have those pieces. But yeah. In the round 11, I went against Ruben, who was playing Mew, and almost making top 8 as well. 1 match point off. Very awesome for Ruben to see from that position that we were both in. Game 1, I actually took very convincingly, and I was like, okay, cool. It's Mew VMAX. I know what to do. Game 2, I was, I think, 1 turn off of winning the game, but I played it out to its completion. And then the third game, I think we said like 15 minutes. Game 3, Ruben successfully assessed that I should go first as the Urshifu player, but then gave me 3 mulligans, and I'm like, oh my god, 3 mulligans, that's like so many, because I have so many ball search cards, so many Sobbles, so much energy, like I have so many good cards in my deck that 3 mulligans is huge. I look at my opening hand and it's completely unplayable. I opened Passimian and I passed and I lost. So that sucked. And that was going into, yeah. And so then I go up against Francesco. Game 1, I ended up taking it pretty easily. It was Mew again, but Mew playing Palpad Marnie. And then game 2, I ended up losing by a turn against Francesco. And then in game 3, I had a perfect board setup and I was going to win the game. But I actually made a gigantic misplay by putting Hoopa down instead of going for the Passimian and starting flinging. And Francesco took expert, like, he realized it immediately. And he basically, like, kept bossing up my Hoopa and putting 50 damage counters on my board with the Oricorio. To effectively either he wins on board by taking like 4 or 5 prizes all at once, or he takes us to time. And had he knocked out even 1 Pokemon, I was able to like go super firepower, like go mode. Like my hand was absolutely insane. He burned all 3 boss, and I thought I was safe at one point, and he went ahead and Palpatted back 2 boss, and I was like, oh no, not again. I knew a balloon and a net were prized, and I knew I shouldn't have put Hoopa down, and I Peonied, and I didn't hit either of those. So my mistake got absolutely insanely punished, taking me to a tie. And at this point, I had mentally checked out, which is something really bad, and I need to stop doing that. But now I'm 1-1-1, and I'm fighting for not getting bottom 7, which is a terrible feeling in a day 2. And then I go up against Juho, who's playing Arceus Beedrill, Urshifu. And so game 1, I don't expect the Beedrill, and I ended up prizing the fighting. So I get uber punished on turn 2 after taking out an Arceus. I'm leaving Juho with no Arceus in play. I thought it was just Arceus Urshifu. I thought I was in a good spot, but Juho ends up getting the Beedrill up and basically clapping me right there. And I'm like, oh no, that's not good. And then the following game, I have a complete and total brick, and it's very depressing that I lost. So it's just like nothing I could do in that second game after I realized the Beedrill existed. But that matchup should be completely fine if I don't prize the basic fighting. And I did, so it happens. And so round 14, I went up and take the tie with my Netherland friend and put us both into a chance where only one person bubbles out of 64. So at this point, the $500, the 130 points, the guaranteed stipend, all of that makes more sense than playing a game where I know that 26 match points doesn't even make top 32. I think it was like a couple of 27s made it. So had I, like, I don't know, beaten Juho or tied or beaten Francesco, I would have had a better shot throughout the day. But I think I mentally checked out the moment I lost to Ruben on the brick game 3. And then the mistake I made against Francesco just kind of gutted me mentally on the day. So that's definitely something I need to work on myself as a player, because I think I could have very easily top 32 still the tournament. Maybe even top 16 had my luck gone a little bit better and not made that mistake against Francesco. But I did what I could. And I'm very happy for my teammates, my partners, Justin and Isaiah, for making top 8. We'll have them on here on the channel to talk about it. But I definitely am very happy with the tournament result. Wish I could have done more. I know I could have done more. But next step is Indianapolis for me. And hopefully I will not make another day 2 and flub. I know it's like very first world problem me that I'm making day 2 and then doing poorly. But it does suck for someone who's trying to win the event. But anyway, thank you guys for watching the video. I really appreciate you guys watching my tournament report. And I will have interviews with the guys later this week, and my vlog will be done hopefully by Friday. So thank you guys for watching, and peace out.